Welcome back. I am John P. Today I'm going to be answering your questions that you have asked me on my Instagram, The Real John P. From time to time, I put together videos like this where I respond to many of your questions that you ask me directly from my story or my direct messages, as well as DelReyWatch.com, where we buy, sell, and trade watches. I field questions here, I put them together, and I throw them in a video here for you to check out. And also, if you do go to my TikTok, The Real John P, as well as Instagram, The Real John P, you can see a lot of these responses in short form content, a little bit easier to digest outside of this platform, so check that out. So I'm gonna jump right into it without further ado. The first question is actually gonna be about Vacheron watches, and this person asked, basically, has Vacheron died as a brand? Has the demand died? Well, no, that has not happened. And interestingly enough, there was kind of a trail to this question, and they were kind of wondering if Federico and I at Del Rey Watch were basically market makers for Vacheron now, and that's why we stock the watches. Some kind of market making strategy, and that's not the case. Vacheron is hundreds of years old as a brand, and the market has been made long ago for the brand. Vacheron doesn't need myself or Del Rey Watch to keep afloat, hundreds of years old. But interestingly enough, a lot of people that were getting into Vacheron because the watches that they did want just went up in price higher than their price cutoff, if you will. Those buyers maybe are able to get into a Patek Philippe Aquanaut, for example, or something comparable, or an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak. Whereas, maybe these buyers were buying the overseas instead, and that's kind of what lifted up the prices. So there's still demand, but mostly from enthusiasts and collectors and people that want the watch, and certainly a lot less of the speculators. Now, the next question is, what is your favorite watch brand? I am asked this question all of the time by everyone. Meet them on the street, meet them at quite literally anywhere. They find out you're in watches, they ask, hey, what's your favorite brand? Truthfully, honestly, I no longer have a favorite brand because they're all special and unique in certain ways. And, I'm very fortunate to have Del Rey Watch, where we see so many cool, interesting watches every day. So for me to have a favorite brand, I think that is pretty difficult, but at least on my wrist today, I'll share with you, I have a Seiko watch, a collaboration with Rowing Blazers, recent release, very cool watch. Check out the guys over at Rowing Blazers. Outside of this watch, I have been wearing my vintage Rolex 1016 Explorer a whole lot, and that's kind of how I personally treat my collection. And I actually have a very interesting new watch for my collection that I'll be unveiling pretty soon. And go ahead and feel free to leave in the comment section, because you probably cannot guess what I've just added to my collection. Now, the next question is the best color to choose in a Rolex tapestry dial. I'm a boring guy. I like plain. I like off-white. I like a very dirty dial that started as a white and turned into a disgusting brown. That is what I would choose for a Rolex tapestry dial watch. A watch dial, a vintage watch that has really gone through the ringer, has water stains, dirt. I want to know that my vintage watch has truly been worn, because I believe in wearing watches. So a little bit of an odd response to your question, but I assume you do value the honesty here. Now, the next question is, are these watch questions or just general questions? I'm glad to respond to general questions as well, but they didn't follow it up with an actual question, more so just asking whether or not it's general or watches. So if you have any other questions, or you want to see content that is not watch related, maybe about things I've mentioned in previous videos, or if there's any overlap with watches, feel free to leave that comments below on this content and let me know, what do you want to see? What do you want to know about? Glad to explore those options. Now, the next person asks, you have to build a 5-watch collection and you don't have a budget. What do you choose? Well, I would choose nothing, because I don't have a budget, which means you don't have funds, which means you have to probably steal the watch, and I'm not going to do that. But if maybe what they mean is you could spend any amount of money, which 5 watches would you buy? And I don't think that I would actually buy 5 watches. I have more than that in my collection personally now, not including what's available at Del Rey Watch. And I really don't wear 5 different watches. I'm gravitating towards a couple of different watches: an Omega Seamaster, Aquaterra, and Titanium, Rolex 1016, and the Seiko. And there's so many other watches that I put on my wrist. So personal collection, I personally would not do that. But it's also what I would recommend to anyone out there. What do you like for your 5 watches? one watch, okay. Two watch, okay. Three watches, maybe I can make recommendations. But if you want to start building out a 5-watch collection, I'm just going to put you in a cookie cutter. Here's one eccentric piece and then the rest Rolex and Omega and maybe a Tudor. Now, the next question I'm asked is, what do you think about the MB&F MAD RED and the markup that it has been seeing? Now, I will say that at Delray Watch, we have had a few of these, right? We have had customers trade them in and they either got them out in the secondary market or maybe they got them in the raffle. We don't know, we don't know exactly. Some of them came with receipts, I believe. But the reality is the watch is trading at a premium. But it's one of these situations where, you can't get the watch and people do like it. Do I think that it's worth what it's trading at out there? For me, I personally wouldn't wear it, and I like to wear my watches, so it wouldn't make sense for me to own it. But if you want an MB&F or something that's very close, looks like it, maybe not the same components, certainly not the same components, where else can you get it besides this watch? And so that's kind of the situation we're put in with this, this MB&F MAD watch, but it is what it is. That is luxury watches at the end of the day. Nobody really needs these things per se. We have alternatives. We have digital ways of telling time that are more accurate. So at the end of the day, they're all kind of just novelties, nice to have. And that's the way I like to approach it as a hobby. The next question is, are you ready to be a YouTube sensation? Yes, actually. Interesting question. I think I know what this person is talking about. I've been dabbling with other different types of content maybe that I'd be releasing. So let me know in the comments below what you think about this. There's a very interesting kind of channel that I've been kind of toying around with, maybe starting and providing some more additional insight because the reality is, hey, there's a little bit of a pullback in the watch market currently. A lot of brands aren't really coming out with new things, and that's what I talk about here, watches, right? New watches that come out. So maybe kind of branch out and kind of fill in some gaps while there's some slow periods in the watch industry. Let me know your thoughts and ideas. Love to see it and hear it. Comments below. The next question is, what are your thoughts on Christopher Ward watches and the renaissance of British watch brands? Well, I don't really think there's like a renaissance of British watch brands. Personally, not personally, definitely it's not a British watch brand if just someone from, I guess, Great Britain is on the leadership team. Like, that doesn't count, right? Like, you can't just live in London and call yourself a British watch company. That doesn't happen. That's not real. If the watches are produced in Switzerland, or maybe not even, then the watches need to be, considered as such. How are you a British watch company if your watches aren't produced there? I don't care. Hey, someone is placing it in a cardboard box in that country. And I'm not speaking specifically for Christopher Ward because the reality is I do not keep tabs on this brand. I've heard great things. I've seen great things. We've had a couple in through the door. So I can't speak specifically on what this brand is doing across the board. Besides, I've heard good things and I haven't heard any complaints. But in terms of like labeling a watch brand from a certain country, but it's not, and kind of coming up with heritage or other brands out there, keep in mind, that's not something that I think is appropriate. It's not really telling the truth. It's kind of, telling this story that doesn't exist and selling you an idea maybe somehow that resonates with you. And that doesn't do anything for me. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Now, here's an interesting one, and I really love this watch. This is the IWC Mark XII. They want to know if this is going to be a collector's piece. The IWC Mark XII is your IWC pilot watch, so it's 36 millimeter. It looks a lot like the Dirty Dozen, famous military watches that were made by a bunch of contract manufacturers for the war. But interestingly enough, this features a Jaeger-LeCoultre movement, the 889/2, I believe. And this movement is a really solid workhorse movement. That's probably why they threw it in the watch case. And some people, including collectors, like it. There's different variations. There's a gold version that's rare. There's a Saab co-branded dial version of the watch. And there's some other pretty subtle rare versions of the watch as well. Will it be collectible? Maybe a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be because of the JLC movement. That adds a little bit of pizzazz, I guess you could say, but Ralph Lauren used JLC movements in some of their watches, so I don't think it really says a whole ton about the collectability. but more so, hey, this is kind of an iconic watch. It really set the stage for IWC to continue producing pilot watches and that whole aeronautical theme watches that we see today, probably going into the future. That's what they do. So that's probably why I think, if anything, they will be somewhat collectible and still have some desirability in the future. Now, the next question is, what are your predictions for the vintage Rolex market during this crash? Well, I don't really have to say they're predictions because, the crash is, we're here, I guess you would say. We've seen a little bit of a comeback in terms of a lot of brands, but Rolex has still pulled back. And, there seems to be some bottoming here, some leveling per se. I would say today, the last couple of days, things are changing all the time. But vintage has come down quite considerably, especially the ultra high-end pieces. But the way I see it is they're not making any more of these vintage references any day, right? They're not producing anymore. The supply is limited. So just so long as more people want to start collecting watches, the prices probably have to come back. Sure, maybe the speculators will get kicked aside because they didn't really want the watches. They wanted to see the upside. But the people that want the watches, they want to wear them or put them in the safe because they love them as watches, not financial instruments. If there's more of these people, then the prices should come back up because the supply is limited. That's my hot take on that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And the next question is, what got you into watches? Well, I've been into watches since, like the last years of high school, really. I just was kind of like inspired by the mechanics behind it. Actually, I would even like tinker around. And before they had all these watchmaking kits and things, in high school, I would actually, find spare parts on the early days of eBay when it was truly an absolute circus. And I would kind of put parts together and just kind of tinker around. I thought it was interesting. I grew up playing Legos, right? So I kind of liked the whole building aspect. And then it kind of just grew from there. I got, kind of the more I, developed in my previous career and tech and kind of built up, I, was able to kind of save up and get into some interesting watches. And I've talked about it in the past, but kind of just grew into it. And over time, I really loved it. And it provided so many ways to kind of scratch that itch that I have as kind of that problem solver and engineer perspective, and still, have something that's ever changing and evolving, coming out with new things, and also looking in the back category, back catalog of watch brands like vintage. I started with vintage. I'm talking like a few $1,000 GMT Masters at the time. So I had a lot of fun with it, and that way it kind of just built, and I found a way to make my passion my career in a way. And also talking to everyone out there on the internet behind the camera. The next question, what do you think about German affordable brands? And they mentioned specifically Union, Mule, GH, Tutima, and Junghans. Well, I think that if you like the style of those watches, there's really nothing bad to say about those watch brands. But in my opinion, those watch brands just mentioned, the prices have crept up, and probably they had to, right? So they're a little bit less of a value than they used to be, but the popularity has also gained, especially on brands like Junghans. You can look all over YouTube. Every YouTuber is talking about Junghans and how great of an affordable watch they are. And we've had some in the door, the Max Bills and things like that. They're nice. I like them. The styles personally don't do a lot for me. I probably would rather get into a Nomos. I feel like Nomos does a little bit better of a job kind of, giving the collectors more of what they want instead of forcing their designs on you. But that's just my opinion. Still, you can't go wrong with them if you like the watches. Any collectors of these brands, please leave in the comments below. Help out your fellow collectors. The next question is, what are the biggest mistakes that first-time watch buyers make? The first-time watch buyers, a lot of times, are buying watches that are not what they want, but just a phenomenal deal, or it's just a hot watch and they want it because everyone else has it. But if they are a collector, they end up selling it later and then taking a loss on it, which may not have happened the last year or two, depending, hey, maybe you bought a Daytona, but you probably like the Daytona anyway, right? I don't know, you tell me. But the biggest mistake is buying the watch that you don't really want just because it's what's there or because everyone else wants it. That's just like a pretty sure way to regret the purchase. Oftentimes these watches can be expensive. They're luxury watches, luxury goods. So that's just a waste for so many reasons. So I always recommend buy what you're gonna wear and love and enjoy it, because you have to look at it, because nothing is guaranteed tomorrow. You don't know where the market's gonna go. So we can say, hey, it's gonna go up, it's gonna go down, who knows? But is it gonna go on your risk? That's what matters. That's what I always preach. That's what I recommend to my friends and everyone else. Buy what you'll wear. Now, here's a very interesting question. I wear one watch most of the time. What is the best do-it-all everyday watch? That could mean so many things for so many different people. I would say that my current watch that I wear most is probably my titanium Omega Seamaster Aquaterra, because of just the lifestyle that I live. I like to, not get around on things, and it's titanium, so it's lighter, and it's a watch that I'm comfortable keeping forever, so I don't mind the dents and dings and scratches on it. And it's not a dress watch, so it's not dainty. It's made to be jumped into the ocean with and then walked on land, right? It's the Aquaterra. It's a sporting watch, so that's why I like it and wear it. Maybe you could put it on a strap, wear it with a suit, but I really don't want to wear a suit. If I have to go someplace where I have to wear a suit, I'm not going to that place. I just don't want to. I'd rather wear shorts and a t-shirt. I'm in Florida, Palm Beach, or wear something like this when I want to, be a little more presentable for you guys out there, out on the internet. But otherwise, I'm really not doing that a whole lot unless I have to go to some kind of fundraiser or something, for example. So that works for me. But once again, this is a very personal response. It can mean so many different things depending on what you do, how you want to live, where you want to live, your choice at the end of the day. Now, the last two questions we'll finish off on. Any thoughts on buying brand new IWC and Breitling, or is second market right for these? Yeah, I mean, if you can find secondary market watches, the prices are generally going to be better, unless the watch is super high demand, which means it might sell for a premium, or maybe the watch is no longer produced, in which case you probably have to buy it on the secondary market. But since day one, I've always been an advocate of not paying for the things that you don't need, right? Like if you walk into an authorized dealer and pay retail on a watch that you could find cheaper elsewhere, you're paying for them to have a fridge of champagne in the back. You're paying for the Breitling boutique to make you a sandwich. I don't know if they still do this, but when they started opening up the boutiques, they would offer you sandwiches at the Breitling boutique. You're paying for them to hire models that walk around certain choice outdoor malls and carry the bags and look nice. I mean, that is directly coming from your pocket. So would I do that? No, not unless I had to, or if that's just, hey, it's a new watch, it's the only way you can get it. Always recommend trying to do a little bit better if you can, especially if you don't care about any of the frills. You don't want to hang out in an authorized dealer. I wouldn't want to. I don't want to hang out in a store. I don't like it. I don't like shopping. I don't want someone to come up, oh, sir, do you want to buy a Breitling watch? Here's your glass of champagne. Why would I do that? I have stuff to do. I don't want to sit in a shopping mall. That's my opinion. Obviously, I'm coming across very personal on this. You can tell I'm not the biggest fan of shopping in malls. I've been dragged through a few of these in my life. And lastly, very much the same question, but the brand Piaget. What type of discount could someone expect on a Piaget? Specifically, they mentioned a Piaget Polo, the sportier line from Piaget. Piaget, I believe, you can get a 30% discount, no problem. Maybe the Piaget Polo S in a hot colored dial like the green dial, maybe not. Maybe not going to happen. They might not have enough of the inventory going around for someone in a boutique to want to sell it to you. But generally, this brand is a sleeper. They get, unfortunately, dumped on the market. We get a lot of closeouts of Piaget at Delray Watch, and we get phenomenal deals. And they're very sophisticated watches sometimes. Maybe not the Polo, but they have the Altiplano line and some of the slimline dress watches, which have won awards for being the thinnest watch in existence. Check out Delray Watch. We get a ton of Piaget in. Federico used to work with Piaget, and I've been playing with them in the office a ton. I love them, but get at least 30% off. But if you can't find the watch, you're going to wear it forever. Once again, recurring theme. The choice is yours at the end of the day. So guys, what do you think about these questions? Comments down below. Please do not forget to thumbs up, like, and subscribe. I do appreciate it. Please keep in mind any additional content that you'd like to see. For next time, make sure to check my Instagram, The Real John P, as well as my TikTok, The Real John P. We'll see you next time. You've been chatting with John P.